Music teacher gets mad at me for not being able to hear her, him deaf. So, this happened a couple years ago when I was fresh at high school, in year 7. I was in the grade for 11-year-olds for international peeps. One important thing to note with me is that I'm profoundly deaf in both ears, and cannot hear a single thing without the use of my cochlear implants. See. However, I can lip read pretty accurately, so I'm not completely lost without them. Another thing to note is that my C run on batteries and these need to be replaced every 2 days. This will be important later on. Most of the teachers were pretty understanding about this and would often go out of their way to make sure that I could clearly hear what they were saying, such as seating me towards the front of the class, and standing directly in front of me when addressing the whole class. Except for one teacher who was a hard ass about it. She also happened to be a music teacher. She will be known as Ms. O. Also, this is probably the worst combo because music is also my weakest subject, for obvious reasons. Enter Malicious Compliance. My form, we're a pretentious school and like to call the class that we register and go to lessons with our form, are off to our music lesson, and this happens to be a double period. Yes, we're pretentious and period means lesson, which is about 1 hour and 30 minutes long. Anyway, so we start the lesson, and pretty much 2 minutes after we sit down, the batteries in my C had run flat. Remember how I told you earlier that they go flat every 2 days? And so I needed to change them. However, as my bag, which had my batteries in it, was in the room next door, I decided to raise my hand, like an obedient little boy, and ask if I can go and grab my batteries. At this point I could still lip read, and understand what the teacher was saying, but I'd much rather be able to hear lol. Anyways, she pretty much ignores the fact that my hand is up, and after a couple minutes I pretty much get the hint that she doesn't want to answer my question. I thought whatever, I can still lip read and understand most of what she's saying. So Ms. L basically asks the whole class to go on the computers, listen to an audio file she'd sent us via email, and then use that as inspiration to digitally create our own piece of music. She also wanted us to show it to the class at the end of the lesson. Now, because I didn't want to get into trouble, I raise my hand again to try and ask if I can get the batteries from my bag, but she ignores me again. So I'm like, whatever, I don't even like music anyway, so no big deal. As a result, I pretty much sit in front of the computer screen doing nothing, as I can't hear the audio file or make any somewhat decent piece of music. Remember, this is a double period, so a pretty long wait. After 5 minutes, I get bored and I decide to start talking to my friends. Did I mention I can lip read? And basically let them in on the joke, and we're all trying our hardest to not laugh too hard. Pretty soon, word gets around the class and now they can't wait until the end of the lesson to see what Ms. L is going to do. End of the lesson rolls around, and when it's my turn to play my piece of music, and I pretty much sit in silence, and the whole class starts laughing but trying to stifle it at the same time. This is how the conversation goes between me and her at that point. Ms. L, can you not hear me? I asked you to play your piece of music. Ironic, IKR. Me, sits in silence, and the laughter is getting louder. Ms. L, are you even listening to me? Are you trying to disrespect me by not listening to anything I say? Me, well. Ms. L, honestly, just play your piece of music, it's not that hard. Me, trying to stifle my laughter at this point. I can't. Ms. L, cut me off. This is how you treat your teachers? Get out of the class right now. So, I get out and pretty much wait there until the lesson is over. I think she was expecting an apology from me, which was never going to happen. Because after a couple minutes she pops her head out of the door and barks at me, "You have absolutely no respect for your teachers, meet me at the City View at lunchtime." So, I'm like, yeah okay whatever. At lunchtime, I meet her at the principal's office like she said. Another important thing, is that I'm pretty friendly with the headmaster. She opens the door and the conversation is as follows: "Ms. L, this guy was giving me an attitude during my lesson and wouldn't listen to me. I would give him a Friday after school detention, but I feel that he deserves to get a Saturday detention. Headmaster turns to me. What happened? Me, well, my batteries for my C died and I raised my hand to ask if I could get the replacement batteries from my bag, but she proceeded to ignore me. Ms. L, looks like she just had an epiphany. Headmaster, Will, are you sure about this, because he has not prior record about being disobedient? Ms. L, looking a bit flabbergasted. Yes, I'm absolutely sure he was disrespecting me. Me, sir, you know that I'm deaf and that I would never on purposely do that to a teacher. Headmaster, Will, I'm inclined to believe the student here. If you have no proof otherwise, there is nothing to discuss. Ms. L then goes extremely red as she realizes her mistake and storms out of the office. The headmaster gave me a slight smile before ushering me out of the office as well. Ever since then, she's never ignored me whenever I've had my hand up. TLDR. I'm deaf and need cochlear implants, see, to hear, batteries in my C go flat, and music teacher gets mad at me because I didn't do any work because I couldn't do/hear anything. Proceeds to embarrass herself in front of the headmaster. Now to the comments. As a fellow C-wearing person, it's always amazing when someone comes in going, "Are you deaf?" I've been, and they just trail off as they realize who they were shouting at. Awesome MC. I worked with a guy that was almost entirely deaf for the longest time. He had hearing aids, but it didn't help all that much. You still had to lean in and enunciate clearly so he could lip read while trying to hear you. We were computer lab assistants at a community college. Our job was to help set up for teachers' lessons when they booked the lab, troubleshoot technical issues with the computers, etc. He had many similar experiences. Every new teacher would yell, "Are you deaf?" at least once, and every time he would turn, and in his best deaf guy accent, exaggerate saying, "Yes," and just look as annoyed as possible. They would apologize, usually growing frantic when he just looked down and appeared to be sad. But it was an act, he didn't actually care. The man took everything in stride. He just wanted to make people think before they spoke, and maybe be a bit more compassionate. The moment they left, he'd burst out laughing, and chuckle about it for a day or so. A few of them caught on, and he made friends with pretty much all of them. Guy was a class act. I'm surprised she didn't walk around and check everyone was working. She would have seen you doing nothing and work out why. But your response was great. OP. Shitty teacher. I'll just let him struggle, then humiliate him later when he has to present his work. Sounds like the time my 5th grade teacher told my blind classmate to describe a picture. It was what the textbook read as an assignment, but the girl did ask to get something different. Teacher went, "Nope, you gotta describe the pic." We ended up doing it over the phone with me dictating it to her because all teachers in our school weren't exactly good people. But those are a bunch of stories for other subreddits. Yeah, I had something like that with an English teacher. We had one compulsory listening test which was purely formality. Everyone except me got full marks. And she didn't want me to have mine read aloud by a person instead of played on a shitty tape via a shitty portable tape recorder to a room of 100 people. Reason? Being able to listen is an important part of English. Thankfully everyone else hated her, so the school made her stop being ridiculous. But holy shit, why would you want to undercut a fairly good English student like that? Because she peaked in grade school and gets her kicks bullying children. When people get mad at deaf people for not listening, it's like not even infuriating anymore because they just made themselves look like an idiot. It's instant karma. Also, what kind of battery does your seat take? My parents' batteries only last a couple hours at most, so I'm curious. Not the OP, but most Cs take size 675 and those should be specifically made for Cs and not hearing aids. They require more power and the special batteries give a better sound quality. I'm not sure what you mean. My parents both use Cs and their batteries are of course designed for Cs.